Okay, everybody, welcome to test day. Today is your next Gemara reading test, and I'm going to be coming up to each of you individually over the course of this period to take you aside and review the reading of the last section. While we're doing that, each of you are going to be focused on our Rosh Chodesh unit. So we started talking about this outside. Everyone threw in their guess on a piece of paper as to how to break up this section of Psukim. We're going to spend a little bit of time learning the Rosh Chodesh section together. Now, if you go into the packet that I handed you on the very last page, everyone should have their packet open and go to the very last page. There you'll see the word summary at the top with like a nice little squiggle cloud around it. That's my artistic help there for you. It just says summary. You're going to have that sheet out in front of you. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading the Gemara to you and explaining it to you. The goal here is not for you to be able to translate word for word. That we're going to do in smaller groups next week. So don't worry about the specific translations. What I want you to fill out on that summary sheet is just in your own words, explain the Gemara. Explain what the Gemara is doing. How does it reject some of the options? And what are the final answers the Gemara gives? Now, with this information, after you have a summary down, and again, you can feel free to rewind this if I'm going too fast or if something's not so clear. But when we finish this section, you'll have that full summary in front of you, and you can now use that to help make a cartoon of this Gemara, the back and forth this Gemara. I'm going to provide you with a website. It's actually on Schoology, and you're going to use that website to help transform your notes, your summary of this Gemara into an interactive cartoon showing the different stages of the Gemara in your own words. Again, don't worry about word for word right now. Just try to get the basic summary of what we're trying to do. In front of you, you see the list. These are the Psukim of Rosh Chodesh, divided into its three parshiot. We explained that when the Gemara uses the word parsha, it's not talking about parsha hashavua, like Bereshit, Noach, Lech Lecha. It's not talking about that, but that there are different sections in the Torah where there are spaces after that section is completed. We put here the letter Pei, right? In Chumashim, you'll see the letter Pei, which indicates that there's a section there. So you see the Psukim that talk about Rosh Chodesh are divided into three sections. A section from Pasuk Aleph to Chet, 8 Psukim, a very small section of Pasuk Tet and Yud, and a longer section of 5 Psukim from Yud Aleph to Tet Vav. So the question was, how do we divide this into aliyot? Because, and this is the first thing you should write on your summary sheet, how many aliyot do we need for the laning for Rosh Chodesh? That takes us back to our first Mishnah that we learned together way back at the beginning of the year. 4, very good. There are 4 aliyot. We have to divide this into 4 aliyot. So what's the challenge? Maybe it should be very easy. Just let's divide it into 4. So like we said in class, it's challenging. And we're going to read the Gemara right now to show you why it's challenging. So you can have your Gemara open in front of you if you'd like. But just look at this sheet with me. And as we're explaining it in your own words, you can summarize it on the sheet in front of you. Okay, I'm going to read the actual Gemara. You're not responsible for word at this point. Okay, so again, Rosh Chodesh requires 4 aliyot. Ba mine Ula bar Rav me Rava. So an Amora named Ula, the son of Rav, asked Rava the following question: Parshat Rosh Chodesh, Ketzad Korinota. How do we read the section for Rosh Chodesh? And he explains, Tzav et bnei Yisrael ve'amarta alehem et korbani lachmi. So he quotes this first parsha, this first section, Psukim Aleph to Chet. How do we divide this? Dahavyan tamne psuke. As you see, it is 8 psukim. So what do we do? Hechinavi. What can we do here? So one option is nikre trei tlata psukim. One option is we can divide these 8 into 3 psukim, and 3 psukim. Okay, so we can divide this into 3, Aleph Bet Gimel. So the first reader will read Aleph Bet Gimel. The second reader will read the next 3 psukim, Daled Hein Vav. Well, what's the problem with that? Pashu Lahu Trei. Well, if we divided these 8 psukim into a section of 3 and another section of 3, then we're left with, very good, we're left with 2 psukim. We're left with Zayin and Chet at the end. The Ein Mishayirin B'Parsha Pachot Mishlosha Psukim. The Gemara gives one of the 3 rules that we talked about, that you cannot leave over at the end of a section less than 3 psukim. You cannot leave over 1 or 2 psukim. So if I divided this first section, that the first aliyah would be Aleph Bet Gimel, so into 3 psukim, and then the next 3 psukim, Daled Hey Vav, I'd be left with 2 psukim, and I'm not allowed to do that. I cannot be left with 1 or 2 psukim. I need 3 or more. So that is not an option. Okay, so the Gemara gives a second answer. So on your summary, you can say, on your summary sheet, option 1 was to divide the first section into sections of 3 psukim each. But that's rejected because then I'll be left with 2 psukim at the end, and I'm not allowed to do that. So the Gemara gives option number 2. You can write this in your summary. Option number 2, Nikre Arba'a Arba'a. Some of you suggested this. So let's divide this first parsha into 2 sections of 4 psukim each. Aleph Bet Gimel Daled will be aliyah number 1, and Hey Vav Zayin Chet, that'll be aliyah number 2. So we've got 2 smaller sections of 4 psukim each. What's the problem with that? Remember, we need 4 aliyah total. Pashu Lahu Shiva. What are we left with? We're left with 7 psukim. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're left with 7. Uvayom HaShabbat Havyan Trey. Right? We've got this section of Uvayom HaShabbat, which is Trey, which is 2 psukim. And then we have Uvroshei Chodshechem, the section of Uvroshei Chodshechem, Havyan Chamisha, which is 5 psukim. So how do we divide? Hechinavid, what do we do? Nikre Trey Meha Vechad Mehanach. Okay, so maybe you'll say, remember, each aliyah needs to be 3 psukim minimally. So maybe we'll read aliyah number 3 will be Tet, Yud, and Yud Aleph. What's the problem with that? Ve'ein matchilin beparsha pachot mishlosha psukim. No, you cannot. If you're going to start a new parsha, a new section, you need to go into that section at least 3 psukim. You need 3 psukim. So if you read Tet and Yud, and then only Yud Aleph, that's not allowed because you've only read the first pasuk of this 3rd section. So the Gemara gives its final option. Likre Trei Meha Utlata Mehanach. So why can't I read the first 2 over here and then the next 3? So I'll read the next. Okay, aliyah number 1 is Aleph Bet Gimel Daled. Aliyah number 2 is Hey Vav Zayin Chet. The Gemara's option here is aliyah number 3 can be Tet, Yud, Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Gimel. Then you're getting 3 psukim from this 3rd section. So your 3rd aliyah is 5 psukim. What's the problem though? Some of you can guess it already. Pashu Lahu Trey. You're only left with 2 psukim again at the end. So if I was going to summarize these rules, again, you can summarize the options. We've had now 3 or 4 options. The Gemara's rejected all of them. But if you're looking at this new document I'm making, you can also write a list of the different rules that we've established for laning. Rule number 1 is each aliyah needs to be at least 3 psukim long. Okay, they need to be 3 psukim long. Otherwise, it's for sure game over. You can't work. Rule number 2 is at the end of a parsha, you cannot leave over 1 to 2 psukim. Right? Right? If you're coming towards the end of a parsha, the end of a section, you can't leave over Zayin and Chet, or you can't leave over Yud Dalet and Tet Vav. Right? You cannot leave over 1 to 2 psukim at the end of a section. At the end of a parsha, maybe I'll write in brackets, a section. You cannot leave over 1 to 2 psukim. And the final rule is when you begin a parsha, maybe I'll underline the word end and begin, if I can spell it right. When you begin a parsha, right, a section, you must read at least 3 psukim from that new section. Okay? So again, those are our 3 rules. Each aliyah needs to be at least 3 psukim long. At the end of a section, you cannot leave over 1 to 2 psukim. And when you begin a parsha, when you begin a new section, you must read at least 3 psukim from that new section. Okay, all of this we said outside in class yesterday, but now you see it inside. And hopefully you've summarized that nicely on your summary sheet. Now the final thing that you need to do, or we need to answer, so what's the answer? What's the answer? So here we go. What do we do? And some of you are very excited for this because you might have written this correctly. Rav Amar Doleg Ushmuel Amar Posek. So we have two different answers of what we can do. Some of you mentioned the first answer. None of you mentioned answer number two. Rav says doleg. Rav says we can repeat a pasuk. So basically we can read an aliyah number one, Aleph, Bet, and Gimel. Aliyah number two, we can reread Gimel and read Gimel, Dalid, Hey, right? Actually, we can even read more than that at that point. Or Gimel, Dalid, Hey. Our third aliyah can be Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, and Yud. And our last aliyah can be Yud Aleph to Tet Vav. That's answer number one. Shmuel's opinion is very interesting. Instead of, again, Rav's opinion is to repeat Pasuk Gimel. So Pasuk Gimel is the end of the first aliyah, and it's the beginning of the second aliyah. Interesting. Shmuel's opinion is even wilder. Shmuel says, no, you can posek. You can stop a pasuk in the middle. You can divide a pasuk. And by doing that, it'll count for both. So according to Shmuel, you're only going to read half of Pasuk Gimel to start off. So again, according to Shmuel, aliyah number one is going to be Pasuk Aleph, Pasuk Bet, and half of Pasuk Gimel, which is going to count as a whole Pasuk according to Shmuel. Aliyah number two is going to be the second half of Pasuk Gimel, Dalid and Hey, and then kind of he agrees on the last two aliyot with Rav. So the question is, what do we do with Pasuk Gimel? According to Rav, we repeat Pasuk Gimel. According to Shmuel, we divide Pasuk Gimel. So the Gemara tries to explain what's the logic of each. And why didn't they like the opinion of their friend? So let's explain that. Rav Amar Doleg. Rav said you should skip over it. My time alo amar posek. Why didn't he say to stop? Kasabar kol psuka de lo paske Moshe, anan lo paskinale. Rav says simply, if Moshe Rabbeinu didn't divide the pasuk, who are we to divide a pasuk? Right? Our psukim follow a set pattern, and we know when a pasuk ends. If Moshe Rabbeinu wrote these psukim in a certain way, we do not have permission to divide psukim. That's why I say we should skip over. We should reread the pasuk, but we're not allowed to split the pasuk. If Moshe didn't split it, I'm not allowed to split it. And according to Shmuel, now Shmuel's opinion, he goes into a little bit of a side thing, which we'll skip over for now. We'll explain it when we sit inside together. We talk about him making a comparison to how school teachers would teach children. But he goes on with his answer and he says, why does Shmuel say, posek, my time lo amar doleg? And I've skipped a few lines in the Gemara. So why didn't Shmuel just say, that seems like a good answer, to repeat Pasuk Gimel? Why didn't Shmuel say that? So Shmuel answers, Gzeira mishum hanichnasin umishum hayotzin. What Shmuel was worried about was the following. Right? Let's say, we'll call our friend Jimmy. Let's say Jim walks into school a little late on a laning day, on Rosh Chodesh. And he walks in after the first aliyah. Right? He walks in when we're about to start the second aliyah. Now, according to Rav, what are we doing? We're going to be repeating Pasuk Gimel. So Jimmy's going to walk in. He's going to ask somebody, what aliyah are we on? They're going to say, we're on the second aliyah. And then he's going to hear the words, Ve'amarta lahem zeh ha'isha asher takrivu lashem. He's going to say, 1 second. How can the second aliyah start with the third pasuk? That must mean that the first aliyah was only what? Was only 2 psukim long. He might not know the halacha that we are repeating a pasuk, and he might come away with a very big mistake in his understanding of Jewish law, that what? That an aliyah only needs to be 2 psukim. Think about it. If he walks in, it's the second aliyah, and they're starting with Pasuk Gimel, he's going to be like, oh man, they must have stopped the first aliyah at the end of Pasuk Bet. That means they only lane 2 psukim. And that's going to violate rule number 1. Each aliyah needs to be 3 psukim long. So because we're worried about a situation like that, when somebody comes in and hears something that seems off like that, right? It gives the reverse of somebody who leaves early. They might also have that mistake. If they left early after the first aliyah and they heard only Aleph, Bet, and Gimel, And then they think ahead, oh man, how is the rest of these aliyahs going to work? He might not know that they're going to repeat Pasuk Gimel. Let's say Jimmy went to shul on time, and he heard the first aliyah, Aleph, Bet, and Gimel. And then he left, and then he was thinking, oh my gosh, what did they do? That means they must have violated one of the other rules. So because we're worried about what people might mistakenly think if they come to shul late or they leave shul early, therefore Shmuel says we're not going to start playing around with repeating psukim. Instead, we'll just divide this pasuk so nobody makes that kind of mistake. So it's very interesting. Those are the two opinions. Again, according to Rav says we repeat pasuk gimel. He says we don't divide Pasuk Gimel because Moshe Rabbeinu didn't divide any Psukim. We're not going to divide Psukim into halves. And according to Shmuel, no. It's better to divide Psukim. We're allowed to do that. This is an extenuating circumstance. This is an exception to the rule. And the reason why we're not going to repeat a Pasuk is because it can lead to people making mistakes about our rules of laning. People might come away with thinking, hey, an aliyah only has to be 2 Psukim. Or I can end an aliyah with 2 psukim to go, a section with 2 psukim to go. And these are big mistakes that we don't want people to consider. Okay? So if that was a little confusing, feel free to rewind the tape, listen to these sections. In your summary, you should have included the different ideas over here that we've now talked about, the different options the Gemara gave of how to divide this, how Rav and Shmuel answered it. And once that's down and you feel like you understand it, you can move to part 2, which is now to present this in a fun and interesting cartoon. Have a wonderful day.